He always just does it when like defenders have been given like.
That's a bit weird. I feel has it. Can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, the intro was
hear me?
running and then it went, and then I just saw mine and your face, man. Terrible start, but it's a fantastic opportunity. And I just want to say to anybody listening, you asked for Alex, I've delivered. I've got the guy here. He's saying, my boy.
I'm good, bro. Sorry, I'm so bad on WhatsApp.
Man, he's horrible. He's worse than me, people. Eh?
Call me. Trust me. Call me next time. Just call me.
How you managed to be worse than me? I don't know. It's something.
Yeah.
But yeah, next time I'll call you. We got here in the end. Obviously, you know, with it being Arsenal and, you know, there's a lot to discuss. I think I need to speak to balanced individuals like yourself. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, Alex, off the bat, because it's been a lot of football. How are you feeling about this season as an Arsenal fan? Like, what's your thoughts?
Mixed, really. I mean, it's bizarre because I think this whole season has been a slight sort of balancing act between the unbelievable position that we're in, obviously, like we're top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, you know, one game from the Carabao Cup, just spanked Wigan, obviously, and we got a great draw as well. So, like, you know, from that perspective, we literally couldn't be in a better position. But understandably, anxieties and frustrations about the attacking performances and stuff. And I think realistically, I look at the football landscape at the minute and see us as like almost the least imperfect. I think that's the tag I've used for this Arsenal team, because it's so competitive. There's so much going. I saw a stat the other day that every single team, their open play numbers have dropped off since last season.
Yeah,
like that's
the landscape we're in now.
That's the landscape we're in, and we're in this weird stage of football. So, and it will, as I think, as you always say, like football goes in cycles. Like it will change again, but we're in this slightly odd phase of football where we're in all these amazing positions. Are we good though? And we are good. Like we are absolutely brilliant. But there are games that make us, you know, like the Brentfords, etc., that make us doubt ourselves. So we're recording before the Wolves game. I'm hoping for a big win tonight. But yeah, trying to hold on to the fact that the on paper reality is unbelievable. Trying to enjoy it despite all that anxiety, of course, having, you know, what's happened in previous seasons.
That's twice you've said anxiety, and it leads on to my other point. Like, I know why, but, you know, it's nice to hear from another Arsenal fan. Why is there anxiety? Is it because, like you said, we're perfectly imperfect? Like, on paper, we're doing our thing. Obviously, we want to improve. We all know it's a 20-plus year drought of the Premier League. We're 4 points clear. Obviously, as Alex said, you know, we've got Wolves to come. Why is there an anxiety? Is it like because we need to itch this kind of itch off our back? The itch being the Premier League, getting it over the line. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think we're so, and I think this may be why it bleeds into sort of public discourse about Arsenal, etc. We're so desperate for that validation, and not just validation from fans and media, whatever. It's not just that. Like, I think it bleeds into that, but it's not just that. It's the validation for ourselves to go, we have this thing that proves everything we've been saying, right?
We finally get over the line.
Yeah, and you know how long I remember when we first started chatting. I think it was in the 22-23 season. Like,
yeah, man, a hot minute ago.
You know, we've got to get this over the line, and you know it's important. And it's that conversation has been going for so long, and I think we all do know that we are a brilliant side. It's just getting it over the line, and it's that simple. And it has been that conversation. We can dress it up as, you know, proving this and proving that. We've proved ourselves time and time again. We know this team wins games. We know this team can go through periods of whatever, but we managed to fix it. You know, we proved ourselves in the market in terms of who we recruited. Look around the club, you know, apart from the season ticket stuff yesterday, which is a real shame. Generally, we're heading in the right direction in terms of the commercial stuff off the field, and, you know, looking at safe standing and stuff. So many things are going right that we just need that final thing. And I hope once that happens that there can just be less of a status anxiety. But I think that's what a lot of people are feeling, maybe subconsciously. Maybe some people are going, no, I don't feel that at all. But I think a lot of people are.
No, Alex, you're right, man, in that, you know, we're a good team. The statistics for the last 3-4 years, they always come out that we know we've got a good manager. Shown he can compete in this league and abroad. We know about our players. But it's like the one statistic that does matter is finally getting over the line. And I do think you mentioned when we first started making content, I kind of think that's the best example because Arteta was quite diplomatic, specifically when asked about trophies. He would give like the PR kind of example. Now, in the years that follow, not just him, but the Salibas, the Sakas, anybody connected to Arsenal, they're very specific. We want silverware, we want this, we want to compete, and naturally going to see that. But I just feel they need to get, and I do think you're right in the sense that there is a want of external validation. I personally think, and I've said this to you before, as an Arsenal fan, it's difficult not to bite, but we know we're used for rage bait. We know we're used for engagement hype. I kind of shut off to it. But I would also say we've got to prove it to ourselves, man. I know the players believe in themselves and the gaffer, but there's got to be that subconscious thought every year that you have good nights out and you win battles, but you don't quite win the war. So hopefully we get over the line. I have to be the one to ask you then, Alex, like, obviously I don't want this to be a conversation. If we speak about it in May, then we speak about it. But what if we don't get over the line? Like, what if we don't win the Premier League? Like, where do we turn? What do we do? How do we feel? I've played with this for Alex, man. And I again, I'm not going to ask you whether the manager should go or not, because I think there's reasons for him to be sacked. I think there's reasons to keep with him. I think it's complicated and people will say that's a cop-out. But, like, just as a club, where do we go, man? Like, where do we go, Alex?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to think about it, to be honest. But it's
neither do I.
Look. I think realistically, as you say, there's reasons both sides for certain decisions. I think I look at the contracts, and Arteta is obviously probably, well, almost certainly the most powerful person at the club. But I'm looking at Saka signing a new deal, Saliba signing a new deal, Gabriel, Andrea Berta coming in. What we're doing with the, if you look at independent of Mikel Arteta, there's people who want to be on board with Arsenal. And yes, it is a massive factor is him because they believe in him, but it's also a belief in the club being consistently in the Champions League, consistently they feel in the next 5 years when they're signing a deal that this club is going to compete. We shouldn't be, Mikel is incredibly important, but, ultimately, I see other people in this project who are incredibly important, but also committing to the project themselves. Independent, Mikel's only got a year left on his deal, so I wouldn't go. It's all or nothing. I think this team can carry on. I think realistically, what would happen is probably he'd get another bite of the cherry because I think that's just the situation we're in. But it may become untenable. I said this yesterday on a podcast. I was like, what might happen is, say we didn't, we crashed out of all the competitions or whatever, and it just all fell apart. Yeah, please no. Say that happened. I think what would happen is there'd be a lot of frustration. There would be another round of investment in the summer, and then if it was looking like it wasn't going to happen again, I think he'd probably go. But I just don't see that happening, mate. Like, honestly, we look at the position we're in all four competitions. I also go back through, and I think maybe you agree or don't agree. I go through each of the last 3 seasons. I can give you quite a clear reason why it didn't happen. 22-23, we're up against treble-winning Man City with Saku's 21, Martinelli's 21, like Saliba's 22, whatever. Like those guys were not ready. That happened too early. So realistically, the first time we should have noticed, I think this team might have what it takes to win the title.
We kind of skipped the steps in that regards as well, man. Yeah,
was the back end of this time 2 years ago. That's really the first time we probably should have gone, I think this team can win a title, actually. So we've been waiting for 4 years, but actually it's like, realistically, I think the team has been ready for about, the team has been ready really since the back end of that season. Last season was the injuries. It was we can't get around it. We then bought the squad to deal with that. So we're now, in my opinion, in the position where there isn't, I don't want to say there's no excuses, but there's very few situations that I can foresee, unless it's a complete freak where this season just totally derails. So I really don't think it happens. I think we win something quite serious. And I think we're competing right till the end. I don't see what's happened before happening again, if that makes sense.
I don't think so as well. And it's a weird one. I know people will say it's excuses and things like that. And this is why I like having balanced fans, because you are allowed to consider the good, the bad, and the ugly, whether it's Arteta to be blamed for certain things, the whole club collectively. I do think we're kind of in get over the line mode. Now, I did say in August, I kind of don't think, it's not that it's not relevant, and I know people don't want to hear that, but I don't think Arteta's job at Arsenal is unsafe if he doesn't win a Prem, a Champs, or whatever. I know people don't want to hear it. I am actually of the position that I think the gaffer's a genius, really. really, I believe in these players. I think it's a fair question to say, yo, why can't we get over the line? Because I've said this to you before. I think, not to say we're the biggest and baddest, but I think we have an element of shooting ourselves in the foot. I think we're our own best friends and worst enemies. And I think we're the only ones that can stop us. I know we're not Real Madrid sort of thing. But then it leads me to say, yeah, like, I do think people have to consider who is on the market. I'm not saying that to keep the guy, but it's like, I might not like the house I live in, but it's all fun and games saying, I want to move, I want to move. I need to find another area. I need to do something. So when you remove the buzzwords and you look at it with balance, there's an interesting debate. You mentioned Arteta's contract. Like, how do you think he's going to sign a new contract? And do you think there's a reality he could walk away? Because he is from the Pep Guardiola school of thought. Obviously, it's been 6 years. He showed massive bollocks to take this job. Obviously, you could argue if he finally gets over the line, he might walk, or even if he signs a new deal, it's not going to be like a long-term appointment like a Wenger or Sir Alex Ferguson. So I kind of feel regardless, we need to have succession planning. But what do you say to that?
I think we forget that these guys want to win as much, if not more than us.
Like, yeah, they're the ones living and breathing it. We're fans, but they're literally engrossed in it.
Yeah, and what it would do for Mikel Arteta's, for his next contract, for the choices for his family, for the financial side of his life, from the sporting side of his life, from a satisfaction side of his life, what it would do. Like, he's not sat there going, I don't really care if Arsenal win or don't. I'm just gonna, like, he cares. I think this is the thing that some people, it's almost
especially when you've been so close but so far as well.
Yeah. So, but I think he also cares about the club, and I do think there would be a situation where he would just do what is best for the club. And I think if he feels he can get this team over the line, then he'll stay. I think he is that type of manager, that he reads to me like that type of, similar to Pep. If Pep feels he's done with a group, he will probably go, I don't think I can stay here much longer. And I think Mikel will feel the same, but I suspect that he will feel, no, I can get more out of this group. I think realistically, and I sort of tweeted about this yesterday, I do think there's when we're talking about sort of Mikel's shortcomings, and he has them, absolutely, I do think there's an identity thing in terms of, I feel like we're so good at reading opposition and snuffing out what they do and getting them to do things that they don't want to do. So we'll go to Brentford and we'll say to them, okay, we know you like doing X, Y, and Z, so we're going to stop doing that and, completely bypass that phase of play, and we're going to get you in these phases of play. That means we have unbelievable control over football games and dominance, which is what Arteta's after. What I think it also does is it means our game model is played in the mirror of whoever we're playing. Because we can play any type of game. We can play a running game, a tactical game, a technical game, a chess game, whatever. Arteta's built the squad to play any type
open
of
up
game.
Against us, we can do that as well.
Any type of game we can, and if the spaces are going to be here, that's where we'll put our fullbacks or players, whatever it might be, right? I would love us to develop a more of a plan A, more of a kind of an identity of what we love doing, how
like
we
we're
love
here
to
now.
play.
You have to adapt to us, type of thing.
You have to adapt to us. Like it's inevitable. There's certain things that teams have done, and maybe this isn't the way football's going. I don't know, but I think the reason I mention it is I think Arteta will want to do that. I think he'll want to leave Arsenal having really set, firstly won things, but also really set this is how a Mikel Arteta team plays. Because if you go back through it, it's been, he's played wing backs, and he's played the way we did in 22-23, and then it changed in 23-24, 24-25, I think he had the injuries. Now it's this kind of super dominant chameleon ball that we're playing. I think he'll want to set out and define something. So I think that's another reason he might go, if he doesn't win something up, there's further to go with this team. This team has another step to take, especially with the age profiles, the contracts that are happening. So I think he'll want to stay as well.
I think you're bang on the money. And you said something which I always feel like, obviously, we've been a good club in the last 3 years. I'm kind of trying to exclude this because we haven't seen how it's panned out. I think we've been good. We've got a good manager. We've got a good team. But if we want to be great, and that great being, winning prems and champs and, making history, then, we've got to take what we're good at and take it to another level. We've got to address the evident areas of improvement, sort of thing. And it's almost like, it would be fair to say if we want to cross into a ground that we haven't gone before, then we need to be different individuals that we've done. And I did feel going into this season, to a degree, I've seen it, especially when Calafiori and Timber were fit, Arteta has to reinvent himself. I know he's not, and you'd agree as well, he's clearly not Pep Guardiola, but he's from that kind of school of thought. And I always find myself, Alex, looking at the Luis Enrique's, looking at the Pep Guardiolas, like, you know, for example, Luis Enrique getting a tune out of Donnarumma and winning the Champions League, you know, kind of reinventing Dembele as a false nine. Again, Haaland's in a bit of an anomaly, but he's not a Pep, striker on paper, in it, but he found a way to make that work. Me and you were speaking in the summer, like I wanted Ryan Cherky, and we both said, you know, he's probably not an Arteta player. But then Pep's found a way to get something out of him. So I just feel, let alone be an Arsenal manager, just in his own development, that might be something that he has to address, because, you know, no disrespect to the gaffer, but you've been a manager for 6 years and you've done very good in this thing, but that's baby years as a gaffer. So there's also learning curves. And you said something which I actually wholeheartedly agree. When people say Arteta is a negative manager, he's this, he's that. Listen, no man is without faults, but it's literally not true. He's played attacking football. He's played the defensive football. He's done the chess matches. He's done the chameleon ball. I think his best strength is he's an overthinker. I think that has pros and cons. I kind of feel I'm at the stage now where we suffocate teams. We've got a good street smart defensive ethos throughout the team. You've obviously got Rice and Zubimendi in the middle. You've got the monsters in defense. Maybe we could, like you kind of said, start to insert our own game, start to do kind of things in that ilk. I feel kind of like the cons that I have about Arsenal. I don't think I've learned anything new this year. I think they're kind of carried on from last year, if it makes sense. But that's where it goes back to what we said initially, in that it's a mixed bag, in that we're not necessarily happy with our attackers in totality. There's little things we're nitpicking at. There's things we're happy about. But we've got this kind of platform. So then it leads me to ask you as well, Alex, like in your heart of hearts, with 12 Premier League games left, 11 by the time this comes out, because obviously we're playing Wolves, like, how confident are you in us getting the title over the line? Like City, 1 minute the points gap looks comfortable. Now it's 4 points. It could go even more right for us. It could go left. Where are you at with that?
Well, I think the thing we're talking about that he's built means that we can, again, maybe we don't impose ourselves as much on games as we might like to, and what might want to see as fans. But it also means I think we are the best built for this Premier League right now, the version of the Premier League that it is right now, because we can go toe to toe with anyone, and there's no game state that I look at and go, oh, we can't play. Like City, try and transition through them, you'll cause them some problems. Villa, you know, every single team, I feel like you could look at them and go, as you said, there's somewhere to unpick them, and I think we can unpick ourselves if you sit in a low block and we can't quite break you down, but that's on us. So yeah, I do feel we're best placed to win this league. I also look at the fixtures that are coming out, and I think we are. Saw Scott Willis put something out a couple of days ago. I think we were 5th. Yeah, I've got it here. We were 5th on the average opponent rating. Sorry, 5th from bottom in terms of easiest. And City are sort of heading up towards 8th or 9th most difficult. So, you know, I don't think it makes much of a difference, but I do think we've got an easier run in. We've been to a lot of the difficult away games, St James's Park, Anfield, obviously got Etihad to come, but we've been to, United away, Chelsea away, all those places.
Stamford Bridge as well. Stadium of Light even.
Yeah. And I look at the run in, and I also think in terms of when the Champions League games are being played, the 2 legs, we've got relatively easy fixtures in between. Again, there's no easy fixture in the Premier League, but put it this way, you'd rather play Fulham at home in between a round of 16 than City away, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
so I think we've been relatively lucky in that sense. We're not going to win the quadruple or whatever it might be, as much as I might joke about it, but I do in the Premier League. As I keep coming back to, we're the least imperfect. City will drop points. This isn't City of last season or the season before, because the league has changed and they've changed. This is a team that will drop points. We're going to drop points.
They're the most mortal they've looked in years. Well, last year as well.
For sure. And we're going to drop points as well. And it's a question of who's the least imperfect. And I do believe we are the least imperfect. And I think we will get the Premier over the line.
And this is where, like I always say, a week is a long time in football. Like if you cast your mind back to August, early games, Arteta's got the handbrake up, we're not going to do it, this, that, and the other. Then I think the kind of period I was the most happy about, kind of like around Newcastle, because I think like Arteta found the balance. He was complicating things where you needed to complicate, keeping things simple where you needed to. The players were doing their job, subs off the bench, everything was kind of going all right. Now seasons go up and down, and I do think fans get into this trap of just thinking everything's easy. We're just going to win every game. We actually don't have that many lows. Now, granted, you know, in the last few years, we've had that familiar feeling of not getting it over the line. And I know people will talk about fine margins. They're great. We've also benefited from that because we all know how the Premier League works. You know, sometimes you lose when you don't deserve to, draw when you deserve a bit more or less, and many combinations of that. So we're just ticking kind of over. And I make you right on everything you said with the gaffer. And it's a bit of a, it's like Arsenal's a complicated one, if I'm honest with you, man. And I agree with what you said about City. Look, you have to give City credit in it because they're not the City side they still used to be, but they're still kind of up there now. If City go and do this, I am going to look at them getting a point, well, 3 points at Anfield and what that did psychologically. But there's going to be swings and turns and roundabouts and the rest of it. And Pep Guardiola and Arteta, as well as their players, they've got to earn their money now, innit? Like, this is where kind of what you touched on with the whole games coming up. This is where Arteta's got to rotate where you don't need to and rotate when you shouldn't and do all of those kind of things. So it is interesting. I do think this will be the most inconsistent race of for the title. Go on, Alex.
I was just going to say, I also on that, I think that we're anxious as fans, and that makes complete sense. I do think the play, you know, when you've like failed enough at something that you stop really. It's like, well, I've done it already.
What's the worst that can happen? The things that they've said in the last 3 years, your bottlers and all this jazz.
It's already happened 3 times. So like, I think sometimes. I do think there have been games where we have been nervous. I think the United game, I felt the nerves, but I feel like maybe as we head towards the end of the season, we'll feel more of the opportunity. And I know that sounds a bit like coach speaking, like, oh, it's not pressure, it's an opportunity. I do feel this team will. I get the sense that they're going to just be like, look, we've already failed. We've already, you know, if you failed your driving test 3 times, you know how that feels.
Yeah, you know the whole process.
You know the process. You know what it's like to get a no. You know the reasons why. You've worked on it, and you're just like, look, what have I got to lose? I can't drive right now, so I finished the test, and I can't drive again if I fail. So I don't see it as. I think some people, maybe I wasn't picking up on what you exactly were saying, but I don't think there's a psychological block here. I think it's. I said
that on Talk, but I agree with that. I think it's easy, Alex, for them to say, "Oh, Arsenal got a mentality problem and this and that." I hear it. You can say we haven't got winners mentality. If you want to be lazy, we haven't won. But I don't think these lot crumble. Of course, there's times where they probably are nervous. There could, for all we know, there could be games where me and you are watching. The opposition are saying nothing. We're amazing, and it's nothing to really scream and shout about. How do we know the players weren't nervous about that? If anything, I'm less concerned about nerves and more anxious around complacency, because I say certain things like I say that to say this. It's like I think it's easy to just blame the manager. Obviously, Arteta needs to hold smoke. On end of the day, good, bad, the ugly, it's with the gaffer. But the players are the ones playing. The manager can give you all the ideas. You need to go and do it. And again, maybe the players are just saying PR and whatnot, but people say Arteta's a negative manager, which isn't true. He's an overthinker, great. But they say he's an overthinker. Noni Madueke, Saka, this one, that one. They always say the manager wants me to play with freedom. He wants us to play attacking football. He wants us to do this, that, and the other. And I'm sure because you like to read like post-game comments, like after the Wolves game, Arteta was he always protects his players, but he was very critical. And I think the Aston Villa one, when he said, I don't know why you lot are sitting back sitting back. I didn't tell you lot to do that. So I think it's a kind of double-edged sword. And what I mean about complacency is, like the United game, for example, I think we do this weird thing sometimes, especially at home, where we start, you can tell training's been good, preparation's been good. They're G'd up in the changing room. They've come out, they're on blocks. You know, the other team is suffocated. The first half an hour is great. We might score or we might not. And then I think we take the foot off the gas kind of thing. And then, you know, we've seen this kind of story. So I think that's the next step for the players. But that's something that concerns me a lot more than anything around, you know, scaredness and whatnot. Because, they ain't got winning mentality. But these lot have played at Bayern Munich, the Bernabeu, PSG, had highs and lows, been in a couple of title races, got transferable experience in their own careers. A number of our players have had to react to adversity in their lives. Saka is one. Gyökeres's whole career is another. Eze even being a professional footballer. So you could argue these things are a benefit. Now, I would say, in fact, that's something to ask you as well. Like, where do you stand on like the whole fan debate? Because a lot of people say, the fans are nervous in the atmosphere and all of that kind of stuff. Do you think it plays a part? Do you think we read too much into it? Where are you at with that?
I'm never, ever comfortable going, the fans need to do X, because I'm just like, if you put the ball in the net, we'll stop being nervous. You know what I mean? Like I think it probably does play a part, but I think people using that as like, the reason or the main reason or a big factor in the reason Arsenal aren't quite succeeding is because the fans bro. We could have no fans or just have everyone fucking on the vuvuzelas for 2 hours, like whatever. That you have to go out and do your job. Like I don't. I also think sometimes you have to accept, as the players, it's like if I was Arteta, if that was something they genuinely felt, we can feel that these guys are nervous, and that's boss, what should we do, bro? It's because you had 3 title races in a row you've lost. Like, what do you think? That's part of it. That's part of the next stage of it. Embrace that. If you give them something to get behind, they will be able to get behind you. So if you're feeling all the crowd are getting on our backs here, how about pass the ball through the middle of the pitch once or twice? That might help.
It might sound a bit Roy Keane, but clamp someone, get the fans
well,
going.
Yeah, just like something, give them something. Like I think I think sometimes we could do cart before the horse with the fans, and the fans are a reaction to what's going on the pitch. Always.
Exactly. So what do you feel like? Like, do you feel our players, it's not that they don't take initiative, but do you think we need to take initiative more? Because sometimes I feel we stick to the script. Sometimes I feel like players do a bit more. And I do think with the 12 games left, you might need to, as dumb as it sounds, the game might not be the best game, but Saka might just need to dance past the whole team and score a banger. We might just need somebody to pick out a nice pass through the middle, as you said. Like, do you think that with the players? Because I do think they're street smart, but I do think there's another level to the street smartness. Because I go with the Brentford game. Football is football, innit? You're going to give the ball away. You're going to score. You're going to concede. There's going to be transitions. You're going to give throw-ins away, yeah? I do think we defended our box well, not necessarily for the goal we conceded. We didn't win our first and second balls. But I do remember watching that game again, and I know it's easier said than done, but like a couple of times we're giving away throw-ins, which, cool, it happens. But a couple of times we're giving throw-ins away, and I'm thinking, launch it a bit further up the field, because look at where you're giving these guys these opportunities. Like, do you think there's an added kind of galvanization we need from our players, that like a bit more responsibility they've got to take, especially if you look at the crowd example we've been discussing?
Possibly. I think it's certainly maybe an aspect of decisions that then they are or aren't making that's contributing to it. And I think we are generally risk averse. I think what it is it comes from largely from the structure, in my opinion, in the sense that Arteta's model is to get as I see it, is to get the ball consistently into dangerous positions as many times as possible. That's his, like, if you could say what is Arteta's, number one priority, maybe Ange's would be entertain the crowd or move the ball forward quickly, or maybe Pep's would be to control whatever it is. Like, but I think Arteta's is certainly the final third, allow the ball to arrive in the most dangerous positions over and over again. And eventually the ball will go in from a probability perspective. And I can't disagree with that.
Same.
The problem, it makes sense.
10% of randomness now.
Exactly. But the problem is if you keep trying to do that, the opposition can work that out. So you need some variation. I think it's simply variation. So maybe back to your point that maybe the players are part of that variation, or Arteta needs to bake in some variation. I just think there's too many waves of Arsenal attack where I know exactly what we're doing. We're trying to get the ball into those difficult places, the cut back. We're trying to put the ball into the half space because he's worked out that zone is the right place to put it in. And if you're in this situation with that player there, the game model makes sense. I do get it. But it's like if you were building a house and, you had a certain amount of land and you were looking at all the building restrictions and you're like, okay, well then we need to build it to this height and we need to build it to, with these materials because that's the most cost efficient way of doing it. And we're going to get these building because I've worked with them before and they're the right guys. And I don't, and they're you go through every single detail of the house and you go, this makes complete sense. And you get to the end of it, the house is built and you're like, it's fine. It has no character because every decision I made in the house was just the correct decision.
Yeah,
it was
and football is random as well.
Yeah, the best place on a house, according to Google AI, is for the door is the center of the house. That makes them because it's the best angle. It's like, analogy. Probably. Why not put it around the back?
But it's a house. It's not a home. If that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. We've built a house, not a home, and we've done it just so efficiently and it's brilliant and it makes it. And by the way, when you look at the road and you look at all these crumbling houses around you, it makes sense to build much stronger foundations and it makes sense to put that tsunami blocker up and it make whatever the
and you can see you having a family here for 20 odd years and grandkids completely. And the rest of it.
Structure's perfect and it's got space to grow out the back and you've done everything right. But the thing I love about where I live is the imperfections, is the little thing. It's the little things
What
you
makes
go.
it a
That's
home?
makes it a home. So we're letting you could spin it many different ways, but I just think we don't always allow for that. And maybe that's the players. Maybe that is the players. Maybe they're kind of too bought in. Possibly.
Yeah. You know what? You might be right, because again, using City as an example, I know we don't see it every week here, but Ryan Cherky, obviously, he's bought into what Pep wants, and then Pep has to look at him and say, a bit like how we should look at Eze, is you're never going to be the most safest option. But I mentioned Cherky because I'm sure a couple of times, like, he's done that Rabona thing and he's come out and he said, "Oh, Pep told me not to do that. He's told me off a bit, blah, blah, blah." That's kind of what I want to see on occasion within reason from my players, because I'm sure Pep, got onto him and clipped him around the ear and said, "Don't do that." But I think when he's done with that, he was proud of Cherky, because that's what I bought you to be. I know who you are, kind of thing. And I don't want you to go away from that. I think we can monkey branch this conversation into another one. Yeah, like, again, kind of what you said about it can be a bit predictable and it is perfect. Yeah, that's why, I'm not a fan necessarily of Kai Havertz in midfield, but because of the landscape and where we're at, and if me and you know what Arsenal are going to do, obviously these professional managers know what's going to happen. I think Kai Havertz in midfield, especially his link up with Gyökeres, fair enough, the sample size is tiny, but it threw a spanner in the works. Now, obviously, you would have seen Saka playing Odegaard's role in his own kind of way. Do you think that's something we've got to play on a bit? Where are you at with, because Kai's apparently going to return, like, where are you at with him, and where are you at with Saka in that Odegaard role as well?
Bro,
Because it moved me.
Oh, I've been saying it for so long. Like,
it moved me, I can't lie.
It solves, mate, so many issues. So many issues.
The freedom he has, man.
I think, I'm not saying it's right for every single game step, but I think part of the reason, again, you can't analyze in a vacuum. You have to consider the state that football is in and the way teams are defending, and what it means, by the way, is if teams are defending more and more compact, well, what's happened this season? More goals from distance. So Villa are taking advantage of that, and we're starting to score more goals from distance.
Yeah, we're starting to shoot from outside the area.
It's our best return since 13-14. So there's always spaces. It's just where they are. And at the minute, defenses are super compact and teams are doubling, tripling up on your wingers. So, okay, you've got a bit more space in the center and you can combine more in there. And also it makes more sense for a second striker, because if the ball is going to arrive in those tight blocks, you want someone who can shoot straight, or not a connector in there. You want someone who can efficiently finish in there, because they will have some space.
Facts.
So that's why I think Havertz works. But look, I think with Saka, Odegaard contextually, a couple of seasons ago when teams were trying to build up a little bit more than they are now, or certainly against us, I think with the teams go longest against, second longest against behind Liverpool in the league. What does that mean? That means teams are building up less. Okay, what does that mean for your midfielders? Well, it means your primary presser, one of the reasons
they're trying to bypass the press,
is they're bypassing it because they know how good it is. So it means Odegaard loses a lot of the out possession benefits. So you've got to look at the in possession stuff, and in possession, he struggles to access the block. You could see, games like or stay in the block and penetrate through it.
He wants to drop deep.
Wants to drop out, exactly. So for me, Saka is someone who can ride contact, drive through blocks, Semenyo-esque, deliver, create chaos, break these blocks open. Odegaard may move them, and he might cause he might shift them around, but Saka can literally penetrate through them, and that's a different skill. And I think you take him for the touchline. I think Arteta even said it. He becomes less predictable because he's got 180 degrees more of the pitch to play with. I think him and Noni, especially on that right hand side,
very good against Wigan.
Really, really exciting. And I know people will say, "Oh, it's only Wigan." If you put, I'm telling you now, in my opinion, I hope he plays there tonight. If Saka plays in the 10 for the rest of the season, for 25 games, we will all be saying maybe behind Declan Rice, player of the season. That's how much I believe. Bro, that's how much I believe in him as a 10. His ability to carry, his decisiveness, his efficiency, his ability to roll contact, his decision making, everything suits it. Everything.
And that's the thing, Alex. It's like, don't get twisted. I wouldn't want Saka there on a consistent basis. I'm more just thinking of how we get this over the line. And I think people forget Saka did occupy the flanks, but the main thing is there's freedom. You can go from out to in to out. You can make them overlapping runs. You can run inside. As you said there, yeah, I think fair enough. Saka might not be the most aesthetically pleasing footballer, but I think people, are quite lazy with their analysis. He's quite creative. His link-up play is quite good. He's got fantastic intelligence. You know, even when he was pulling out to the left-hand side and linking up with Eze and making those runs, you obviously get him in different central positions as well. Like, we remember a few years ago, he scored a lot of finishes from the left-hand side. I think we have to utilize that, and it just keeps opponents guessing. Like, it really does. So if we can marry that with what we've said about Kai, I'm all for it, man. Like, we need to do these random things, and Saka can play centrally. And then, like you said, his ability to ride and draw contact, that is a very underrated aspect. Then it leads me to ask you, yeah, I want to kind of ask you about the summer signings. The first one I want to ask you is Gyökeres. Like, me and you spoke. I said I was cool with Gyökeres. I was pushing the Sesko one. I was cool either way. Me and you both agreed as well that I do think people are being a bit naive with, okay, Gyökeres' stats are crazy, but there is an exchange rate from the Portuguese league to the Prem. We've obviously discussed earlier certain things we think Arteta can improve in an attacking sense. We know about the mid and low blocks, and the player needs to adapt, and he's quite limited, in it, not to mention the external factors. So I didn't think it was going to be plain sailing. Admittedly, it was a bit of a struggle than we all would have liked. He's kind of finding his feet now. Like, where are you at with Gyökeres now?
Yeah, I always exercise a bit of caution because there's always
another striker.
There's always an exchange rate, as you say, from Portugal. I think the big thing I was pushing in the summer, and the thing I remember getting a lot of pushback on, is I don't mind the answer to this question, but you have to answer the question why he will translate. The whole point of, because otherwise I could pick someone from the U9s who's scoring 120 goals in 50 games or whatever and say, well, he's going to, well, that's stupid. No, you're making the same argument. You're saying this will translate with no justification. And I think a lot of people are just saying he scores goals, let's just kind of
quite lazy.
Yeah, and like, again, I'm not saying he wouldn't try. He has translated in some senses, but the question is how much, for what price, in what position, whatever. I think with Gyökeres, I think what we found, which is great. Firstly, I don't think he was ever brought in to be. I think it's almost confirmed he was never brought in to start every single game from the start of the season. I think they would
work in tandem with someone. Well, at the time, Kai.
Definitely, and I think he was brought in with the vision of, as the game breaks open over the course of 60 minutes, 70 minutes, bring him on. And I think we've begun to see that. We've the Inter Milan game, I think, is a good example. Leeds and Sunderland, I think I can't remember if he started those games, but the goals, if you look at when his goals have come, broadly have all been second half, broadly have all been in open spaces, etc., as expected. And by the way, we didn't have that player, so it's great. So, and also, I think people might say, well, that's not enough for the fee. Well, Johan Wissa was £55 million, and look how that's turned out. So we needed a striker. We needed someone who could take minutes. He's just not. You have to be so flexible in this Premier League to play every single game. Within 3 minutes, you could be facing a tight block. Then you could be being pressed. Then you can be facing a set piece.
You could have 9-10 minute different mini games in the 90-minute game, or 100 minutes now typically.
They can switch from a double pivot to a single pivot. They can mark you with two. They can mark you. There's constant. I was looking at the opening 20 minutes against Chelsea for a video I did, and mate, they go from like a 3, then they start pressing, and then they stop pressing, then they move someone to the midfield, then they pull it back, and all this stuff is happening between it. So you've got to be alive to it. And the point is that Gyökeres isn't suitable for a number of game states, and that's fine. Like, it's okay.
There's plenty of our footballers. There's probably 4 to 6 players max in our team that you could say, no matter the conditions, you're good. Maybe even 6 is an exaggeration.
And that's the very best footballers in the world. And by the way, they're worth £150 million. They're the Salibas and Sakas, and they're not worth 50, 55. So it's about tempering expectations. What I will say, the only maybe thing I'd look at for him is, I think physically he's got there. I would like to see him trimmed down a little bit sooner. I think we see it now. He's much looser. He's much he's dropped. I think he's dropped a lot of the muscle, and I think that could have happened a bit quicker. But that's probably the only thing. I felt he was too heavy-footed for too long. It took him till about probably the last month or so. I thought, you're now ready for Premier League football, and I think maybe if he had less minutes, he could have worked on it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a strength and conditioning guy, but to prepare himself for Premier League football, I think he could have got his body in better condition. That's the only thing I'd really say he's at fault for.
And I think, Alex, when you look at the Premier League, yeah, and obviously we're not footballers, but I think like in Gyökeres's case or any footballer, obviously they watch the Premier League. They've got mates that play in the Premier League. In Gyökeres's case, he would have spoken to the gaffer. Football's a small world. He might have spoken to, Swedish players that have or play in the Premier League, or, his new teammates at the time. But I do think the Premier League, they can tell you about it. It's only when you're there and you're in the rigors of it and the game states and the low blocks, it's a culture shock. And I also think, to be fair to Gyökeres, Arsenal fans, we were crying for a striker. We've been spoiled through history with forwards and everything we've said about the attacking conundrum and everything. I do think it was like some of it is to do with Gyökeres, but like a lot of it must have been a culture shock. Because for me, I think Norgard didn't play a lot, but I think Norgard had it. And I think with Gyökeres, obviously I'm exaggerating, but I'm not working at London Coley, so I don't know these people. And Arteta even said you can never quite tell what Gyökeres is thinking. Strikers are emotional, I know that much. It felt like in his initial days, even in the Emirates Cup, like he kind of had to be egged on to celebrate. And I did like that kind of cold mentality, but I do think he was nervous and shy ain't the right thing. It's only now when he scores, nobody has to egg him on to do that. It feels like he's there. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but you do have to earn your teammates' trust. The players are trying to find you now because you're giving them a reason to. And I think the main point you said there is ultimately it's a different tool for a different job. There's very few players in our team that are the kind of guys. I think we're moving to, well, in an ideal world, you'd have Saka getting crazy numbers, big up Trossard and Martinelli, but a left winger getting crazy numbers, your striker getting something respectable, let's just say double figures in all comps, your midfield and your set pieces and your unlikely heroes kind of make up the difference. So that's Gyökeres. Like, I'm not going to ask you about Zubimendi because me and you both said in the summer he's going to be a hit. I absolutely think he's a hit. I think for what I believe of Zubimendi, it's a positive 6 out of 10 from you in the sense that I think there's many gears to go. You've been bloody fantastic. I don't think we've scratched the surface of what Zubimendi can become. Like, he's scoring more goals. I actually think he's still going through that culture shock, Alex, of like when it's them crazy game to game, end to end type of things. I did want to ask you like about Eze because like, what do you have it down to? Is it Eze? Is it like, I didn't think it would get like this. Now, granted, Wigan step in the right directions, had some great moments, but yeah, man, where you at with Eze?
I think and he's developed over the course of the season. I think there was always going to be a bit of a culture shock's probably wrong, but a learning curve in terms of the application in all phases. When we were thinking about Eze in the summer, we were, as fans, we were all thinking about the goal in the FA Cup. We were thinking about the passes through to Mateta, the magic moments. By the way, he's provided a few of those. That Palace game we don't win without him. The Spurs game, the Wigan game, like
Newcastle,
Bayern, exactly. So no one's saying that's as many as maybe we would have liked and the impact, but he has provided some of those and he's got us over some lines. So that's for me a lot of tick, tick, tick. That's 40, 50 mil off the price tag. I'm going, great. Right. I think that final little bit, I think is partly to do with position. It's partly to do with the vogue of the league where it is right now in the spaces that he's not getting. As I say, Mikel, if you look at let's say the 3 positions he can play, we're going through, I would call it a divorce with Martin Odegaard at the moment. We're seeing whether we can still live together or not. That's a conversation, but he's been caught in the middle of that a little bit. That's maybe not fair. Well, as the left eight, okay, do you want to take Declan Rice out of the team? No. And on the left-hand side, do you want to take Trossard out of the team? And the shift he puts in. So he's just in one of those situations. I think we're sometimes, and I think sometimes we also have to go. I remember saying this to you before. Like sometimes we give out wages and we're like criticized for giving Saka, let's say, 300 grand a week or something.
Oh, don't get me started, man.
And I'm like, okay, so just to be clear, you expect us to beat Man City, who are paying however many of their players 300,000.
Paying Marmoush 300 grand.
Paying Marmoush 300 grand a week. Comfortably, by the way. You don't expect us to just shave it. You expect us to beat them comfortably, but not pay our players the same, which is, by the way, like the 90% correlation between.
And when you just look at in Saka's case, sorry to cut you, but just look at the market. Like, how much is Cole Palmer getting? How much is this one getting? How much is that one getting? How much? Again, not that you should pocket watch, but look in the Arsenal squad. I'm not trying to make this about other people, but are you more comfortable with Saka getting 300 grand a week than what Kai's on, for example, or Jesus is on, and things of that ilk? Like, it's not making sense. People need to apply stuff like that to the real world. Like, if you was doing more than certain people, you'd want more money. So it don't make sense to me, and it's got nothing to do with anything. Like,
and
crazy.
You look at Man City's bench, and they have players of Eze's quality, but I think we're coming up to that. We're establishing ourselves, hopefully, in that Man City, Bayern, Real Madrid class, right? And in doing that, we're going to spend 70 million pounds on a player, and they might not play every week. You know, I have this conversation with George, who I podcast with quite a bit, and he's like, you know, if I'm giving X player this kind of money, and I'm always like, I don't disagree. Let's just shift that 50 grand. Like literally, you just have to accept we're in a new class now. If I'm paying 50 million pounds for a player, I don't think that's how it works. I think it's when I'm paying 100 million pounds for a player, I agree with, you know, these certain demands. The game has shifted. Like you look at Man City's bench or how much Liverpool spent in the summer. You can't expect to compete with these clubs.
If you're not paying the going rate.
But you're paying the going rate. So people see the fee and go, why isn't he starting every single game and the star of the season? It's like, well, look at Marmoush, look at Wirtz, look at all these guys. I mean, Wirtz is a perfect example. So, you know, it's a squad game. He's establishing himself. I think he's been a bit under par, and I felt in some games I felt a lack of application, which is annoying.
Yeah, he needs to assert himself a lot more across 90 minutes. I've seen moments. I need more because I think you did well, if I remember correctly, against Atletico Madrid. Newcastle away is the one where whenever someone says Eze, I think of that. I think you was purring from start to finish. You did your thing.
Yeah. The one thing, someone accused me of lazy analysis for this, and
you're not the first, you won't be the last, man. We will get
really push back on it, and I want people to watch out for it. The one thing out of possession that I struggle with him, he'll go in when he's on it. He'll go in for a challenge, but you watch someone like a Zubamendi. The shape of their challenge is also telling the ball where to go. As in, when they're going in they're trying to get the ball away from.
The ball's going to go in a certain direction.
Yeah, they're trying to get it to a teammate. They're trying to get it out, or just like, you know, back up the pitch, or whatever it might be. As it's a little bit like, as long as I win the ball, I don't really care where it goes. And there's a lot of like ricochets when he loses. Like his technique means he's winning the ball, but it's often like toe poked off his foot to someone else, like into space or whatever. There's been a lot of times where he's won it deep, but the ball's just gone anywhere. I'd love to see him that specific thing addressed. But look, that will all happen. And also, you know, it's his first season at a club of this size. There's going to be an adaptation period. Yeah, I think next season will be a season where we all go, okay. And I also think if you look at his record post February, most seasons, it's much better than the beginning of the season. So maybe he's just one of those players who has a bit of a kind of run-in player.
You know what, Alex? For me, it's a bit weird. And obviously, he's played in other positions. He's played on the left-hand pocket. He's played on the right. He's played in place of Trossard. But it's weird for me, like with Eze. One thing I really like about what I've seen is he's almost like the pass before the pass. Like when he drops deep and kind of splits lines and gives it to the players who do end up being in the lineup. Now, granted, when we were speaking in the summer about Eze, my thought was final third, in and around the area, purring sort of thing. So there's more to come from him, really, if I'm honest. And it just shows, as much as, you know, we bought Declan Rice, it's different, but I like Norgard. Under Arteta, we've bought more Premier League proven players. Eze was in the Premier League. He's kind of struggled now. Some of that clearly has to be on Arteta. A lot of that clearly has to be on Eze, but he's not doing that bad. Obviously, he needs to take his chances. As harsh as it is, whether you're getting 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, you need to take those chances, really, because you've got to force Arteta, whether that's dropping Odegaard or putting you on the left, even though Trossard's probably been our most consistent player. You've got to change things. But as I said to you before, as much as I want to speak about individuals, I just want to win trophies. Like, by all means, I wish every player, Ballon d'Or contender, PFA, all that matters is us getting over the line. And then we can breathe. Next season, we go again. For what's left of this year, obviously, the Gyökeres, the Ezes, I would more say our attackers. If you lot can come into purple patches and get some real sweet moments of form, great stuff. I did want to ask you as well, like, who did I want to ask you about? The two the two defenders, man. What have you made of Hincapié and Mascara? Because I think, you know, when I look at the 8 players we signed, relative to expectations, Gyökeres, you're doing all right. Zubamendi would be the player this season for me out of the new boys, really. Mm-hmm. But Mascara, like, I have to big him up. Like 13 million, it's robbery, really. Like, what have you made of Hincapié and Mascara?
Our record, I'll try and find it on the fly, but our record with Mascara, I think he's drawn 1 game, something like that. He's won every single other one.
Brentford, must have been.
I think it was Chelsea. Let me see if I can find. I think James. Here we go. So this is Christian Mosquera is undefeated as a starter for Arsenal. Forest, Bilbao, Port Vale, Newcastle, Brighton, Bayern. Yeah, we drew against Chelsea. So I think that Stamford Bridge game where Saliba dropped out. Brentford, Inter, Kairat. We drew against Brentford and won against Wigan.
Did very well against Bayern as well, if I remember.
I think he's been amazing, but I think it's another example of what certainly this recruitment team is very, very good at. It's profiling defenders and the stability, the physicality. I love how he sets himself up with the passing. Like as he receives the ball, he's got that really smooth action. Sometimes you see players, they take a moment to just get on with it, and he can really set himself up. I love how brave he is on the ball. I think he's great. And he seems to me like the sort of guy who's in learning mode. He's just there to be like, I'm going to learn off Saliba and Gabriel. I'm not going to, complain I'm not playing too much, whatever. And he's going to, yeah, if he doesn't start for Arsenal in the next couple of seasons, he'll be snapped up by someone, and that's going to be a big profit.
My hot take is being play right back at some point, but go on.
Possible, yeah. Nketiah, I'm still like jury's out. I think he's a good player.
He's just prone to moments of madness sometimes.
I think he is, but I can't. Did you see that tweet that was like, it's like your dog driving your car? Sometimes someone just nails it, and I'm like, that's it. It just feels a little on the edge, and not in the kind of Gabriel way where you feel, okay, well, it doesn't matter because you're bigger and stronger than anyone. He doesn't quite feel that. So look, if you ask me right now, 40 whatever million was for Nketiah, was it 50 million for the option?
I think it was 40, 50. Well, it's like that David Raya kind of loan, in it, where it's essentially an IOU. You're essentially an Arsenal player, even though it's a loan on paper.
Look, I think if Mikel and this recruitment team are spending that kind of money on a defender, then I'm happy to hold my hands up and say, look, your record's unbelievable. So I'll take your word for it. Right now, as I sit here, I'd probably do it, but it would be that kind of like, yeah, okay.
I prefer him at left back than centre half at this moment in time. I must be honest.
Yeah, I'm not smacking the confirm button. Let's put it that way. I'm lightly pressing it, going, okay, let's see. I think towards the end of the season, and I hope that we're going to see a different level from him. And he's had some good games recently. He played really well against Chelsea. I really like that performance. But yeah, I'm slightly like wary. Feels like he's on the edge of an error, and I don't like that.
Do you know what it is for me? Yeah, it's like, it's dumb, but like, I think you've got to be more calculated. Like, I think he just needs to be in a bit more thinking mode. Like, I like him. I like aggressive defenders. But a byproduct of that is you want to win every ball. You're a South American warrior. I think you need to be a bit calculated. Like I said in the summer, now, fair enough, I'm watching Arsenal a lot more than Leverkusen.
Yeah.
But one thing I said is I can't believe he's 23. He plays with a lot of maturity. I know because I asked you about Mascara, it kind of looks a bit silly. But when he came to Arsenal, I kind of reversed it. I'm like, you look like a 23-year-old defender. Sometimes you're a bit overzealous in the tackle, which is why right now I prefer you at left back. I don't think you're the best ball passer. I think you're very good carrying. Like you said, it's not like, oh my God, we got to get him, but I'm cool with him. Like I'm proper cool with him. We've been linked with him for a number of years. So it's all kind of calm in that regard. I wanted to ask you, because you've kind of touched on it every now and again, like this divorce with Martin Odegaard. Like if you were to ask me right now, obviously if they're all in form, Odegaard's going to play in that role. But for all of the concerns around Eze, I'll give Eze an opportunity. I want to entertain Saka playing in that role. I'm a big fan of Kai Havertz in that role because of what it gives our team at this moment and with Gyökeres. And I know he's been injured, and I'm not trying to have a witch hunt, but does it feel for you that we are divorcing? Does it feel like the system is leaving him? Does it feel like this could potentially be an exit? Is this one where Arteta's going to kind of be at loggerheads because he's your captain, he's all these things, but again, he wouldn't be the first nor the last player that the system's kind of left and we've moved on from, quote unquote.
Yeah. I made a video about this a couple of weeks ago. Look, Odegaard is a brilliant player at what he does. It's just the question mark of who are the midfielders in vogue right now in the Premier League, and who are the guys that people are looking at and going, oh, they're thriving. It's the Elliot Andersons, it's the Declan Rices, it's the Dominic Szoboszlais, who a huge part of their game is their physical prowess.
They're dynamic.
That will flip again. Of course it will. Like it will. There will always be space for that. But the technicians, I really, really hope in the next couple of seasons, players like Cherki, other guys running, the vogue of the league.
Yeah, we need a reset, man.
That'd be amazing for me. But it happens. They're always, if you look through the vogue of the Premier League, there's always a couple of years where it's a bit more physical, a bit more set piecey, a bit more,
swings
long
around
balls,
like
etc. Yeah, and then similar. If you look at even what Villa are doing this season. Central transitions, attacking foot, they're getting some benefits from going against the grain. So that's where people will probably start to go to. I just think Odegaard is in a stage where the league and look in the Champions League and the cups, he's fine. He had some really good performances, and there's some situations in the league where he looks good, but
yeah, like
the
off the
league
bench
isn't
against Leeds.
And I remember the Newcastle game he came on, looked great.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
changed the game because the game had opened up a little bit.
Him and Eze got a good relationship. Not that we've been exposed to it.
Yeah. So, I just think we're in a bit of that period. He's not a bad player. Look, if you asked me, I would want like another lock picker. Maybe that can be Waneri. It could be Dalman, to be honest. Like, what a talent. What a talent. I mean,
Fingers toes, everything crossed, man.
It all depends what happens with Saka, with Eze, with Dalman, with Waneri, even with Fabio Vieira. I mean, who knows, right?
Not that.
I just feel so many debates. I just feel with Odegaard that it might be the easiest big sale.
Yeah, because we only spent 30 odd million quid. There is a profit. You could caveat that and say, I know it's not the same, but Ben White, once upon a time, first name on the team sheet, whether he was playing centre half, let alone right back. You're better in the final third than Timber, but in this whole totality, Timber's better than you. So you become a rotationary option that could be of Odegaard. Where the issue is, and that's why I asked you, because is it a thing where Arteta, and you could extend this to Kai, maybe a Marino, Arteta values them. We need to keep squad players, especially if we win the league. You can't throw people around. We know how much Odegaard means to Arteta, but you've got other options. There might be stuff in the transfer market. We have given people new deals, and he is on big money. So I wonder if Berta's looking at it and saying, you know what, 30 odd million, he's on 200 grand a week. We're probably in that stage around a new deal. Arteta, can I just ask you, if you remove your romance around it and give me your cold analytical opinion, can you exist without Odegaard? And this season, rightly or wrongly, you kind of have in it. Like maybe in the last few weeks, injury excluded, Arteta, has probably said, you know what, Odegaard, let me take you out the firing line. I've tried to play you into form. It's an interesting one, but again, it's adapt or cease to exist, isn't it? Really and truly, and that goes for everyone. We might be in a realm one day where, I'm exaggerating, but Saka, Rice, Gabriel Saliba, David Raya, they're easiest names on the team sheet. That might not be the case. And that's what happens when you're in the pursuit of greatness. To kind of round this up here, I did want to kind of go back to like what we're trying to do. The one in terms of winning trophies. What do you think of the League Cup final? What do you rate of our chances? And what do you rate of our chances of winning at least 2 bits of silverware? I know you made a joke about not winning the quadruple. I don't think we are either, but can we dream? Can we dream? Because the League Cup, we've got 50% chance. Prem, we're in a fight. Feels like there's a domestic double at the very least, no?
I mean, specifically on the League Cup, I said this yesterday on something. I hate that this is true, but I think it is kind of make or break. Like I do think it's going to be, if we win it, the rest of the trophies are going to come. If we don't, I think we could go into a bit of a spiral, and we would need something quite serious to hold it. But I think we're going to win, mate. I really do. I feel quite strongly about that. I think we're going to win the League Cup. I think we win the Premier League. And then I think that's probably what we do this season. I think Champions League, I still think we need those magic players.
Yes, them inevitability players. We spoke about that last year.
Or maybe even just a system that promotes that a bit more, a bit more freedom. Because I think, with Eze and Saka and Havertz, there's been moments with those players where they've sort of shown flashes and big moments they've popped up, but we don't have that sort of. We don't have the Vinny Jr., the guarantee, just like, you're going to pop up and you're going to deliver in that sort of game. So that's my feeling about the Champions League. And I just think in the FA Cup.
Have to play the champs by ear.
Yeah, I think in the FA Cup, there's so long to go that I wouldn't put my neck on the line yet. But I think with the Prem and the Carabao Cup, I'm pretty confident we'll win both.
Listen, we got to win it, man. And again, obviously, we're going to get into that realm where, even depending on where we draw in the Champions League, we could play City again in that competition. Yeah. We've got to play City twice as a minimum. We could buck them in the FA Cup. This is the realm we wanted to be in. And generally in this country, if you want to be fighting for titles, you are going to play City. In the champs, obviously, you're going to be playing against Madrid and things of that ilk. I did want to ask you as well, like a bit of a twofold question to round up. What have you made of Nelly and Trossard this season? And do you sell one, if not both, in the summer? And also, what's the most important positions that you feel we need to bring in for next season, essentially? Because 2 centre mids, if you're not going to play Lewis Skelly, definitely a left winger. I don't think we're going to get another striker, but I wouldn't be against another one. Maybe that's a projecty guy. If you can get someone better than your careers and you lot fight out, great. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be against another defender if you're a centre-back that can play right-back or a right-back that can play over there. I feel we're a bit lopsided. I always feel a bit nervous on the right-hand side. But where are you at with those things,
man? It does, for me, it does depend on sales. I think there's certain things that don't. So I think we need a leggy midfielder, like a rangy, leggy midfielder who can not can cover for Rice, but I worry without Marino, like the situation in the room, which is not, it's crazy considering. Not that I don't rate Marino at all, but like, Marino is a big point of failure.
You haven't got
on our
many
team.
midfield bodies to pick from at the moment.
Yeah. So I'd love someone who's a bit, like an Onana at Villa or something like that, who can just, play some minutes in that position. I think you're right about a left winger. Then it depends on sales for me, to be honest. It depends on sales. It depends on the end of the season. Say if Martinelli goes, I want a runner. Like I think I'd be open to a Martinelli sale, even though I think he's actually found a new role in this team, which has been quite nice. But we would need to replace that. I think we're in a situation where we have a lot of players who bring unique skill sets, which is great. So if they move on, probably the only player who I think we could sell without looking at a replacement is arguably Odegaard. That might be the position that we're in, because we have
Especially
so
with the
many
Haaland as well.
options. Waneri, Dauman, Saka, like we have so many options on that side. But yeah, it would depend on sales to me. I look at someone like a Barcola, and that to me,
wouldn't that do your head in? Madueke and Barcola, I think they'll frustrate me, man.
Bro, we've got to do something
like the Madueke, like the messy version of Madueke. I saw it on social media. I was like, yeah, even yesterday it's frustrating the life out of me. There is a player in him though. He's good.
Yeah. I think the only ones that I go we absolutely must do, regardless of sales, I think are a left winger and a backup midfielder, basically in that sense. And then everything else is sales. Depends where Jesus goes. Depends what happens with Nketiah. Depends what happens with Ben White. I think from there. There's
so much speculation. It's a weird one because, if I just say random names like Kai Havertz, Marino, Trossard, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, you'll get, like, you speak to 5 Arsenal fans, you get 5 different opinions. And it's not like I'm against any of them going, but it's not like I don't think you 100% have to go. Yeah. I also feel like when you reach the pinnacle, like you win the Premier League, you can't just tear up everything and make wholesale changes. You can, and it doesn't guarantee you'll end up like Liverpool, but there is that to consider. And the one thing is Arteta and Bert are, they're clearly working not just in a season, but seasons. And that's why I'm happy with, like you said earlier, like we've got the prime ages. The past brings regrets. There's bare uncertainty about the future. It's now just about seizing the present. And we'll have to see how this season plays out, man. Alex, what content have you got to come out? Where can people find you? Not that they don't already know, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me. Find me on The Different Knock and TDK Plus.
Yeah, and you got another podcast as well, man, with Lawrence and that. Like, remember everything, bro.
Sorry, Lawrence. My bad.
This guy, man. So, yeah, man. And again, people, hopefully we win the league. Getting 3 points tonight against Wolves. Make sure you're following Alex on all his socials. Everything's in the description and in the title. Alex, appreciate you. Let me let you get on with your day. And next time we need you, I'm definitely going to phone you. Forget
Give me a ring, man. Give me a ring.
In a bit, my guy, man. One love. Safe.
You always just have to run like, I think it's like